You know how learning to read can sometimes feel well, like climbing an impossibly tall mountain for a kid? But what if we could flip that script? Turn that whole daunting task into a joyful adventure? That's what we're digging into today. We're cracking the code on a phonics curriculum that does exactly that. Think about when you first learned to drive, right? You're trying to steer, hit the brake, check the mirrors, watch for traffic. It's a lot, just completely overwhelming. Well, reading is exactly like that. It's not just one skill. It's this whole symphony of skills that a child has to somehow conduct all at once. It only looks easy and seamless after you've totally mastered it.
So, what makes it so baffling? Well, for starters, before a kid can even begin, they have to memorize 26 letter names in order. Then they've got to realize that each letter has like two different outfits, an uppercase and a lowercase. And maybe the biggest hurdle of all, they have to wrap their head around this totally abstract idea that these little squiggles on a page actually stand for sounds. I mean, how in the world do you even begin to teach that?
Well, it turns out you make it real, you make it fun. And that's where the first big idea of this method comes in. It's all about getting kids to move. It's about connecting physical action directly to memory. Okay, get this. There's this action rhyme called ABC Follow Me. Just picture a classroom full of kids, and they're all reaching up high pretending to pick an apple from a tree. Then they might polish it on their shirt and take this huge, crunchy, imaginary bite. All of a sudden, A isn't just some boring shape on a page, it's an experience.
And the genius here is just how simple it is. You take this abstract symbol, A, and you anchor it to something super concrete that every kid knows, an apple. And that physical act of picking it, that's what we call kinesthetic learning, and it literally cements that connection in their brain. So it's not just about seeing it or hearing it, it's about doing it. And that creates this awesome, joyful, multi-sensory link that is so much harder to forget.
And this just keeps going all the way through the alphabet. So for M, maybe you're making monkey sounds and swinging your arms around. You're basically building this physical library of letters and sounds, one fun movement at a time. Okay, so that's the sound. But what about the shapes of the letters themselves? That brings us to the next big idea. So, pillar number 2 is all about getting hands-on. Think of it this way. If movement connects the sound to memory, then creating something connects the letter's shape to understanding. It's all about making those abstract symbols physically real. For example, let's look at the letter T. First, a teacher might show the class a bunch of real neckties to introduce that T sound. Then, every student gets a pattern shaped like a giant letter T. Their job? Draw something totally silly on it. And by drawing on it, cutting it out, and even wearing this T-shaped tie, the child is physically interacting with the letter's form. They can actually feel its straight lines and sharp corners. And then there's another craft that makes the whole thing super personal. Kids get to make an initial crown. They decorate and wear the very first letter of their own name. All of a sudden, the alphabet isn't some weird foreign system anymore. It's about them. It starts with them. Okay, so we've got movement and we've got crafts. But what about all the practice? The drills? Well, that's the third pillar. It turns all that practice into a game. It totally lowers the stakes and makes messing around with language just pure fun. Check out this riddle from a game called Danny and Darla. It's a really simple back and forth, but it gets kids actively listening for a specific sound and pulling a word out of their brain's library. Ready? I am Danny the detective. What waddles and quacks and starts with a D? What do you think? You got it, a duck. And see, the whole point of the game isn't about being right or wrong. It's all about that playful discovery. It's about getting to be a detective and solving a fun little mystery. And the games actually get a little more sophisticated from there. This next one's called Tricky or True. Now listen to this question. It's not just asking about letter sounds anymore. It's pushing kids to think critically about what the sentence actually means. So, a dog has a tail, and so do you. Is it tricky or is it true? Yeah, it's tricky. This simple little game is so smart. It encourages logic, but also a little bit of silliness. And what it's really doing is teaching kids to not just sound out the words, but to actually question and analyze what they're reading. And that is a huge skill for real literacy. So through all this play, kids are basically gathering all the tools they need to start cracking the more complex parts of the code. Which brings us to decoding rules, like the famous silent E. You've probably heard of it. It's that CVCE pattern. That's consonant, vowel, consonant, E. The basic idea is that a silent E at the end of a word makes the first vowel say its name. You know, a long vowel sound. I mean, just look at how it works. You take can, add an E to the end, and it becomes cane. The ah sound changes from ah to a. Or Tim becomes time. Not becomes note. Cut becomes cute. Once you see that pattern, it's like, whoa, you've just unlocked a huge part of the English language. It's not magic anymore. It's a code, and you know how to read it.
So let's put it all together. How do all these different pieces, the actions, the crafts, the games fit? We've seen how this whole approach takes a kid from just a single letter all the way to understanding the really complex rules of reading.
At the end of the day, this isn't just one simple trick. It's a complete, multi-sensory strategy. You learn with your body through action. You understand with your hands through creating. And you practice with your mind through play. Each one of these pillars supports the others, building this amazing foundation for reading that's not just strong, but actually joyful. And that really leaves us with a pretty big idea to chew on, doesn't it? What this whole thing shows us is that the daunting becomes doable the moment